It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life, from the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators, the famous and not so famous, the controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here's Douglas Coleman.
Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Patrick MacPhee. Hi, Patrick. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Douglas. Thank you very much for having me. It's a wonderful pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, my pleasure. So I'm looking at this, says that you are a winner of the Elron Hubbard Writers of the Future contest. Now, it says a winner. Were there more than one?
Yeah, there were multiple winners. There were 12 writer winners in all, and there were 12 artist winners, too. For the writer winners, I got to know these amazing people throughout the week, and they had so many interesting stories. Some of them were very young, some were older, retired, and everyone came together in Los Angeles, Hollywood. We all had to geek out in a way on writing with each other and share so many stories together. It's not just us. There are also some professional writers in there as well. Tim Powers has a story, Sean Williams, so it's quite the collection of stories.
So how many people won?
12 people won.
Oh, okay. So 12
each
writers.
Each quarter has a first.
I just said there were 12 writers altogether in this meeting?
Yeah, there were 12 writers, and each quarter has a first, second, and third place. I was lucky enough to get first place for my quarter. The top winners of each quarter get to go for the grand prize, which I didn't win this time, but the story that did win, ASCII, was a wonderful story. That was very well done. But yes, there were 12 winners, 4 quarters with 3 winners each for 12 winners. And they all got to come down to Hollywood for the big workshop and the awards gala.
So how did you get nominated for this, or how does somebody get in for consideration?
Sure. Well, I first discovered Writers of the Future. I was looking at getting some short stories published. And most people who are getting short stories published, at least in terms of science fiction and fantasy, will likely encounter Writers of the Future when they're searching for magazines and whatnot, markets to submit to. If not, there's Google Writers of the Future. They have a website. There's an online submission form. It's open to anyone as long as they have not been professionally published. I believe it's more than 3 pro credits. So it could be 3 short stories. If you're earning more than 8 cents a word, you count as a pro writer. It would not be for you. If you have a novel that's been published either traditionally or non-traditionally, independently, and you've had more than 5,000 sales of that, you would count as a pro writer. But everybody else, you just have to type up your story. I believe it's a 17,000 word limit. It has to have to do with science fiction and fantasy. Send it away. Make sure your name isn't on it because it's all blind judging. The judges get the story, and they just get a number related to it. There are no names whatsoever, and then they pick the stories they like. I was lucky enough to be a finalist. Joni Labakwi called me a few weeks after I submitted my story, and I got this call from California, and I thought, oh, wow, that's interesting. And she said, Patrick, you know who this is? I thought, yeah, it's Joni Labakwi from Writers of the Future. And she calls all the winners. And, well, she not just the winner, she calls all the finalists to let you know that you're in the top 8 or the top 10. And then from there, the judges get together and they decide the top 3, and the rest is history. But yeah, it's open to everybody. I encourage anybody out there, if you're thinking of writing, especially if it's a science fiction, fantasy type angle, and you want to get some experience, even if you don't win, I found that submitting to the contest gave me a little boost every time. It got me into that habit of writing.
So how much work have you published?
I have a few short stories published. I do not have a lot of work published yet. I'm relatively unknown, you would say, aside from this contest. And I have a novel that's finished, and I'm sending out query letters and whatnot. I have a couple of more novels on the go. But what I've learned from the workshop especially is just how to write, how to brainstorm. I have all these ideas now moving forward, not just stories, but novels I wish to write as well. But not too much at the moment, I'm afraid. This is my first pro credit.
Well, I was going to ask you a little bit about the workshop. So what exactly did you do for the week you were in Hollywood?
Well, for the first little bit, I got to meet Tim Powers and Jody Lynn Nye, who have written all kinds of amazing stories in sci-fi fantasy. And I was a little starstruck at first because we're in this room together, and it's a relatively small room, about the size of a typical high school or elementary classroom. And there are these judges whom I have read their books, I've seen them in interviews and whatnot. And I remember I raised my hand and I asked a question, and Tim Powers walked right over to my desk and he leaned in because he wanted to hear the question. And I leaned right back thinking, I'm talking to Tim Powers right now. But they just went over several days, all the ins and outs of here's how I write, here's what may make sense for me, it may make sense for you, all about how to do characters, the plotting together, stories, novels, the ins and outs. And it wasn't just them, because after a couple of days of Jody Lynn Nye and Tim Powers giving us the anchoring of it, then we had other judges come in, people like Larry Niven, who wrote Ringworld, Orson Scott Card, who wrote Ender's Game, so many others as well. And they would give us sometimes contradictory advice, but it wasn't necessarily that they were against each other, but that they would say, hey, this is my experience. I've encountered something a little bit different. Let me tell you about traditional publishing, let's say. And then someone else might come in and say, oh, let me tell you about independent publishing and publishing through Kindle Direct and all these other wonderful ideas as well. Over the course of the week, I probably had 80 to 90 pages of notes that I'm still going through and decompressing. But it was a tremendous experience, not just meeting them in the classroom, but even at the hotel. We would sometimes hang out in the lobby, have a little bite to eat, have a drink, and the judges were so approachable. They were very nice people, and they would come over and say, hey, how are you? Probably realizing that we were all very shy, introverted writers, and we might not go over to them and say hi, but they would often come over to us, and we would just get to know these people as regular human beings. So a wonderful experience.
Well, so has that experience sort of jump-started you to write something else to continue, or are you going to keep going in the same direction? I mean, in terms of genre, are you going to stick with sci-fi, or are you going to try a full-length novel, or what do you plan to do for the future now?
For me personally, I like speculative fiction. I like the fiction that's either fantasy or science fiction that has a little magic in it. When I was young, I remember reading The Fellowship of the Ring, and I was way too young to be reading it. So it took me a very long time. It probably took me longer to reach Rivendell, the elf town, than Sam and Frodo in the book took, because I was just reading so slowly. I would look at the maps, I would daydream as a kid, and I realized later that I wasn't just reading The Lord of the Rings, I was playing in Middle-earth. And in the way that only a child can do, you have this imaginative overlay that you put over the world. Kids don't know much about how the world works, and they tend to fill in the gaps with magic. And sometimes that magic is wonderful, sometimes it's terrifying, but that's what I was doing. And I guess that never went away. When I read or when I write, we call it speculative fiction, sci-fi fantasy. It's like I get to go back to that edge of the possible and dip my hand in the magic and still experience that. So I have a fantasy novel that I finished. I'm working on an alt history novel and a sci-fi novel as well. I don't really have a particular blend too much. I can tell you more about them if you like.
Yeah, briefly. Go ahead.
Okay. Sure. One is a fantasy where there's this 18-year-old kid and he gets kicked out of magic school and he has a very difficult time finding any place in this society. It's very corrupt and his problems are just beginning there because an ancient cult frames him for murdering the king, and now everyone wants to kill him, and his only chance to survival is to uncover the secrets of magic. So that's one. I have an alt history one. It's the year 1313, and the last band of Knights Templar are on a secret mission to the New World to uncover a powerful artifact that can restore the order. But before they can get back, a freak storm blows them into the middle of Ragnarok, and now they're the only ones who can stop the apocalypse. And I find these ideas really fun. And now that they've given me more tools as a writer, I think, okay, I'm going to write a book. Yeah, I'll just have all the tools to brainstorm, outline, go over the scenes, write it in. It's really exciting.
So one of your short stories was included in the Writers of the Future Volume 41, right?
Yeah.
What's the title of that story?
My story is called 30 Minutes, or It's a Paradox. The particular character here, he's a 22-year-old Terry Johnson. His life is not going in the right direction. He's stuck in this kind of dead-end pizza delivery job. But he literally crashes into the ultimate get-rich-quick scheme himself from the future. He's traveled back in time to teach himself how to invent time travel. And the theory for that kind of came from, I'm a teacher, so every now and then I would have a student say, "Sir, do you believe that time travel is possible?" And I would say, "Well, of course, I'm waiting for the day when I'll travel back to teach myself how to invent time travel." And I would get a chuckle from that. And I think, okay, it's a bit of a ridiculous idea, but let's go with it. So I turned it into this sort of whirlwind comedy where this guy, he gets this time travel device, but things go hilariously wrong. They quickly spiral out of control. And it's a bit of a genie out of the bottle, monkey's paw, but not a horrific way.
Okay. Has this book been released?
Oh, it will release on April 22nd. That's the official release in Canada and the United States.
Oh, all right. Well, Patrick, I think we're going to wind this down. Do you have a website that you want to give out?
Yes, I do. It's patrickmacphee.com. So Patrick, Patrick, MacPhee is MacPhee.com. You can find me on there. I'm also on X and Twitter, MacPhee225.
And we should probably give out the website for writersofthefuture.com, and that's where people can submit their work?
Yes. There's all kinds of things there. There's not just a workshop, which I personally did, and I found it really valuable. It's free, by the way. You have to sign up for it. But you can go through all these videos and articles that help you out. There's a forum that a lot of people swear by. Different authors and writers will help each other out. And then there's the contest with the rules, and there's a submission place where you can send your stories into.
Okay. And this is a yearly event?
The whole contest goes through a year, so the big awards gala is every year, but every quarter there is a new batch of contests.
Oh, I see.
So you can send in for the quarter, and you should hear back in a couple of months. And if you didn't do so well, just keep doing the next quarter, keep on doing that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, and congratulations on winning this award. And best of luck with your future work.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.